Hello, ESS folks, it's Miss Lenorovitz, and if you're at this point, it means that your carbon cycle model has now been updated so that it's representing the major reservoirs where we find carbon, the major forms we find carbon in, and now, more complete than what's shown up on the screen right now, you've included the fast and slow carbon processes that are part of the carbon cycle that move carbon from one location to the next. And you've color-coded them green for processes that happen in less than 100 years and orange for processes that take a little bit longer. Now you're ready to do a little bit more practice and a little bit more deep learning about the processes of the carbon cycle. So that's where this video is going to take you next. Awesome. So from here, you are going to be playing the carbon cycle game. So this is something that you can actually do right from your current location. You are going to do some hypothetical traveling around the carbon cycle. You obviously have your model represented. You're going to be looking at a different version of a model as you start to make sense of it. So you'll notice in the representation that's on your handout for this assignment, you're going to see processes listed in orange and reservoirs shown in purple. So you can see that there are going to be some similarities and slight differences in how things are phrased on your version versus on this version. So for this, you're going to use the document that's in Google Classroom. So you're going to be completing this electronically. You'll do a little bit of analysis of the visual that you're looking at the very beginning after close reading the directions, and you're going to be looking at the colors that are used there. You'll see then a document that looks very similar, a portion of the document that looks very similar with this graphic where we're representing fast carbon parts of the process in green and slow carbon in orange. And you'll again see those same explanations you were just working with a moment ago on your model. From there, you're going to be playing the carbon cycle game. And part of the goal of this is for you to familiarize yourself and get to practice using the different terms for the carbon cycle. So what are the different reservoirs? What are the different processes, and are they fast or slow, and what reservoirs do they connect? So you're going to read through the directions. Your starting reservoir is going to be your assigned table where you have been sitting. So if you sit at table number 1, you are going to start your journey on slide number 1. If you sit at table number 3, you will start your journey on slide number 3, and I'll show you those slides in just a moment. You are going to be throughout your journey filling out this carbon cycle journey tracker. So you can see you have several different steps to your journey. You're going to take at least 10 steps. Your first one where it says assigned, again, you're going to start at the slide number of your current table. Your job at that first one is to name what the reservoir is. So other than just assigned, is it the atmosphere? Is it in fossil fuels? Is it in living matter? You're going to describe the form that carbon is taking. So what form is the carbon actually in? Is it a carbohydrate? Is it a hydrocarbon as part of fossil fuels? Is it carbon dioxide in the atmosphere? You're going to identify which sphere or spheres it is in at that time, probably one sphere. You can highlight here instead of circle, and the process that's going to move that carbon and where it ends up. Well, how do you determine where you're going to end up? So at each station, you are going to be interacting with a slideshow that I'll pull up in just a moment. You're going to be rolling a dice. In this case, it's a virtual dice. And from there, it's going to generate a random number. That random number, along with the directions on the slide, are going to tell you where you're going next. So from there, you're going to gather some information from that slide, and then you'll go to the next slide and start that process over again. So let's take a look at this slideshow that you're going to be using. So let's say that you happen to sit at table number 1. You're going to start off in the atmosphere because that's the first slide in this presentation. You are currently a molecule of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. So on your document, you would put down for your first spot that you're in the atmosphere, that you're carbon dioxide gas, and you of course then are in the atmosphere. The next thing that we need to fill out is the process that moves the carbon. In order to do this, you need to actually roll the dice. So you're going to click on that random dice or number or generator, and you're going to hit roll again. And this time I happen to get a 1. It may be different for you. So I'm going to read this column over here to know where I go next. So I rolled a 1, so I'm going to stay in the atmosphere. Much of the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere moves through the atmosphere. So on my chart then, the process that moves carbon is just going to be circulation in the atmosphere, and my ending spot for this turn is in the atmosphere. Then my next turn, I'm going to write down the atmosphere again because that's where I still am. I'm still carbon dioxide. I'm still in the atmosphere. And I'm going to go ahead and do another random roll of the dice. So I'm going to go back to the random generator and I'm going to roll again. This time I got a 3. So after this, I'm going to stay in the atmosphere again. You're going to find for some of your turns, and yours will be unique from everybody else, you might stay in the same reservoir multiple times. That's going to happen even if you might be part of a fast process. Okay, so you're going to do that. You're going to go through for 10 different turns. All right, so once you've taken your 10 turns through the carbon cycle, and again, you might not get to every reservoir, you're going to shift to modeling your carbon cycle journey. So this one is going to be a model specific to your 10 turns. So you're going to be illustrating a model in which you're showing your journey through the carbon cycle. You want to show the locations or reservoirs you visited. So you want to have both the name of that reservoir and the sphere. So whether it's atmosphere, biosphere, geosphere, hydrosphere. You want to identify the processes that moved you from one place to the next. So you're going to draw an arrow to show the direction of movement. You're also going to make sure that that arrow is the right color. So fast carbon, we're going to label in green, slow carbon in orange. And then there's an extending opportunity as well, is how would you get carbon into its starting location? So if you could go back in time and time travel before your first turn, how did your carbon end up that location? And then how can your carbon take the journey to make a complete cycle? So I'm expecting all of you are going to have these first bullets in there, and that some of you are going to extend to add a little bit more. When you're creating this, you can either create a hard copy on paper and then take a good quality, high quality image and insert that digital image into here. Or if you like to generate stuff on the computer and you want to use something like Google Draw, you could use that to create it. If you finish that early and you're still wondering what else you can do to stretch your brain, go ahead and do a little bit of math work here. So you could calculate the percent of time that you actually spent in each reservoir. So you spent 10 turns on this. How much time did you spend in each one of these locations? So you can show your math work there. Hopefully that gives you a good idea of what to do with this carbon cycle work. And hopefully that process is going to make you more confident about the processes and the reservoirs of carbon along with the forms. When you're done, you're turning this in Google Classroom.